Good morning. Welcome to the, June 6, 2024 Parking, Traffic, and Safety Committee meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Mary Lou McElwain.
Here.
Steve Pesci.
Here.
Mark Siracusa. Erica Wygonick. Deputy Police Chief Mike Maloney.
Here.
Fire Chief Bill McQuillan.
Here.
Public Works Director Peter Rice.
Here.
Stephanie Casella, Planning Department.
Here.
David Allen.
Here.
Chairman Andrew Bagley.
Here. And can we, please have the financial report?
Move to accept.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a
Mary Lou?
quick parking question for Ben. Can I ask it now, or should I wait for miscellaneous?
Is
It
it-
has to do with kiosks.
Yes, we could do that now, if it's to do with the financials.
Thanks, Ben. So I just had a question on the 3 parking spaces that are on Market Street Extension. If you're going out of town, it's before the Chamber of Commerce, but there isn't a kiosk there. So I know a lot of people are using the parking app, but if they don't, there is an alternative for
They can
them.
use any kiosk. They just
Yeah, I know,
make
but it's
sure-
not there. It's way up on the other
Understood.
side of
It doesn't-
Sheraton. So I bet people are just saying, oh, I'm just going to get a citation. Not a ticket. I'll get a citation and not worry about this. Is that what's happening?
Certainly a choice. I don't know that there's any more citations being issued in that area than any other.
And then the other
I haven't
place,
heard any complaints about it.
okay. I just noticed that it's quite a distance to go.
Those machines run about $12,000, $13,000, and they cost about $250,000 a year to run. The system does. To add one for 3 spaces didn't make sense. And we didn't want to use the little meters because they're expensive as well and they're unsightly.
Okay, I just can't see people walking up to the Sheraton to use that kiosk. And the other spot is the 4 places that we put at the bus stop on Congress. You have to come around the corner past Dunbar Square restaurant or go down to Thirsty Moose. So there isn't any
Or use
place.
Park Mobile.
Or use Park. Not everybody has that. Just saying.
Okay.
Just commenting on the fact that I don't think they're accessible and there aren't any meters there.
Okay.
Comment.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. All those in favor of accepting the financial report?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No presentations. New business, taxi stands, request to modify city ordinance, chapter 7, section 7A-408 to allow for taxi stands to revert to metered parking when no taxi license and medallions are issued by the city by DPW. And the sample motion is moved to approve changes to chapter 7, section 7A-408 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And just to speak to this, you guys probably recall about a year ago we got rid of most of the taxi stands and we had 1 medallion. Now we have no medallions and we still have 1 highly desirable spot that's empty basically 24/7 on Pleasant Street because it's marked for taxis that we don't have any. So this would put that space back into the regular parking inventory.
So I did see a taxi on Monday. First time in probably 5 years I've seen a taxi in Portsmouth. So what happens if somebody requests a medallion and this is in place, this ordinance is placed? Do they have another option of parking?
We could go back to basically, we used to have a lot of taxis,
Yeah,
and a lot
I
of
know.
taxi
Yeah,
stands.
right.
Most taxis now use a call service like
Right.
Uber or wait until they get a phone call. They don't
Right.
wait on the side of the street. So we just have effectively a parking space that nobody's using.
Yeah.
And it would be better for residents and visitors to be
I
able to
don't
park
expect that we're going to see taxis in Portsmouth, but it was interesting to see that one in several years. And I just wondered if they have to go back and then change the ordinance. What does somebody do?
I don't think people are going to bother with the medallions anymore.
Yeah.
There's not really any incentive
Yeah,
for them
it's
to use
inexpensive.
them.
So-
You can be a taxi without a medallion.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yep.
The way it's written is it allows it to revert back to a taxi stand if a license is, if a medallion is granted.
Right.
So
Is
it
that a
would-
big deal?
It would be baked into the ordinance. So the ordinance would allow us, we wouldn't have to come back, get lessons
Good.
or anything like
That's
that.
what I was
It would
asking.
revert back.
That's what I was asking.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then B, initial discussions about providing a car sharing option such as Zipcar in the city. Sample motion, move to request staff report back on alternatives, feasibilities, and opportunities for a car sharing program in the city. We can get a,
Make a motion.
Second.
and I'll open it up for discussion. And I can speak to this briefly. We know we did the Zagster bike kind of share program that wasn't really a success, but what the thought was is there's a number of people that live downtown that maybe have 2 cars or 1 car, and if residents had access to a car they could use for, trips outside of the downtown core for places they couldn't walk relatively easily, they may be incentivized to not have that second car or a car at all, which would, I think, would be beneficial for all. So this is just a request for the city to look into it and see if it's feasible.
So how do those, if I may, I assume Zipcar then comes in and has a facility or something that?
Yeah.
They end up having if I may, sir?
Yes.
They end up having parking spaces designated for them, so it would be a partnership with the city, most likely. And they have a minimum revenue that they have to cover in
Yeah.
order to cover each vehicle. And then, they have services that they come in and clean the vehicles and they maintain them. And
Got it.
So it's
So they park in spaces that are designated,
yep.
and somebody gets a code or whatever when they hire one and they plug in and,
Yeah, I'm not sure the specifics on that. I mean,
Yeah.
Steve, I think you've done them at UNH.
I mean, we keep saying Zipcar, but of course there are other companies. But yeah, you become a member of Zipcar, and then you have an app on your phone, and typically you use that app to unlock and drive the car.
got it. Okay.
I think it's fantastic that we're doing this, and I think
We're exploring this.
exploring this. Thank you. No, I look forward to the report back, but I think it would be a great service to add to our community, and certainly would help with private car parking demand. So fantastic.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, old business, Hanover Street. Excuse me, report back and request for 15-minute space near Vaughn Mall. Sample motion, move to reallocate 15-minute space on Hanover Street near the intersection of Maplewood Avenue to a location near the intersection with Vaughn Mall. And I think there's a map.
Yes. Bring that up.
If I could just get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
And you'll recall a couple months ago, a business owner near Vaughn Mall for takeout was requesting a 15-minute space. Generally speaking, we don't like to add 15-minute spaces to the inventory because they're not as well utilized as regular spaces. But we evaluated the 4 spaces that were in the proximity, and it looks like we could move one of the ones on the corner, leaving one there, to where the blue square is, and that would be a more equitable allocation of the 15-minute spaces.
Makes sense.
Mary Lou?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think it was Prov Bank that asked for those 2 15-minute spaces there. And I think this is a smart move to move it down a couple blocks.
Yeah, and they do retain one,
Yes.
and the utilization is
Right.
pretty low there, so.
Right. Okay.
Steve?
No, just going to make a motion that we move to relocate the 15-minute space on Hanover near the intersection of Maplewood to a location near the intersection with Vaughn Mall.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did we make the motion twice?
Oh, we did.
Doubled up.
Covering our
We
bases.
need more coffee.
Yeah.
Better than not at all.
We're cruising through the meeting. Police monthly accident report.
Thank you and good morning. For the month of April, we had a total of 68 crashes. 28 of those crashes were reportable. We had no instances of pedestrians being struck, and we had one instance of a bicyclist being struck, and there were minor injuries associated with that crash.
Erica's raised her hand.
I think,
Mary Lou and then Erica.
Erica?
You said Mary Lou first, or?
Erica.
Let's
Erica
go with
on Zoom?
Erica.
you mean Eric?
No, Erica's on Zoom.
Oh, she's on Zoom. I just had a question. The last time I think a couple months ago, you said that many of the accidents are occurring in parking lots. Is that still the case? You said.
Yeah, well, yeah, I said that probably more than once. We still do have a considerable amount of accidents in parking
that.
lots. That hasn't changed, and that's been consistent over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Well, our numbers are climbing up, of 68 from 53 last year at this time.
They are.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars on the road, and the
Lot of
weather gets
cars.
nicer, and
Fast.
spring and summer, and Memorial Day hits, and yeah, we're seeing an uptick
Right.
in just about everything again as summer's starting to hit.
And a lot more bicyclists. So that bike accident occurred.
The corner of Sagamore and South Street.
Not surprising. Yeah.
It was not the vehicle operator's fault either. The bicyclist was more acting like a vehicle, and they were in the blind spot of the car when
Yeah.
the car was making a turn. So.
Yeah. Not all cyclists are following the rules of the road, that's for sure.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Erica?
Hi, everyone. The thing that jumped out to me when I was looking at this, the fact that our pedestrian crashes have remained high for 2 years now, and they've gone up and they've stayed up. We're in good shape now in that we haven't had any yet this year, and we're a pretty solid way through the year. But I'm wondering if there's anything we could or should be doing to be proactive in making sure that doesn't stay high.
I'm sorry. What's high over the last? I understand you were saying that pedestrian crashes involving pedestrians are low, but what is high?
22. We have the yearly numbers for 22 and 23, and I don't know why it didn't jump out to me until looking at it this month. But they've ticked up and they've stayed high, and I'm wondering if this is something we can be thinking about. Is there any pattern in the pedestrian crashes we've seen? Pedestrian crashes are rare, so it's hard to find patterns, but 8 in a year, 2 years in a row jumps out to me.
But to date, we haven't had any.
But today, right, I agree.
Correct.
So far this year, it seems like we're in better shape.
But by and large,
I don't want to lose sight of that, though.
yeah. So we do the purpose of our traffic enforcement efforts, and particularly ones in the downtown area, are aimed at pedestrian and bike safety. In virtually all the crashes that I've looked at involving pedestrians, in particular, not bicyclists, but pedestrians, within the last several years have been the contributing factor was disregard of a traffic control device by the pedestrian. So it's as much educating the pedestrians as it is educating motor vehicle operators, and that's also something we do with our grant-funded initiatives. Is we do stop and warn people for not crossing in a crosswalk and crossing against the signal. And I mean, I'm sure we've all been downtown where you're driving and you have a solid green light to proceed, and the person in front of you in the vehicle is waving the person in the crosswalk against the cross signal. So it goes both ways. But yeah, obviously, preventing crashes is the number one reason why we do our traffic enforcement. So we're always paying close attention to that.
Thanks.
Now we have the update on the sidewalk project along Greenleaf Avenue and Lafayette Road.
Yes, I'll speak to that, Mr. Chairman. So in response to the neighborhood concerns on Highland, we are looking to construct a sidewalk along Greenleaf Ave and Lafayette between Highland and South Street. Put this in here better. And this is a screenshot of a portion of the project where we will be bringing I am not good with this cursor. Let's see.
You said Highland Street, but
Yes, if you go down
Hillside.
Hillside. I'm sorry.
like, I don't think Highland's very near
It's
there.
like, I was thinking about, like,
It has an H. That's about as close as I got.
Miller Avenue.
Okay, so, yeah, so the sidewalk would be on Greenleaf Ave between Hillside and South Street along Lafayette. And part of that will be this intersection with Greenleaf and Lafayette, where we have a very large radius, or not much of a radius at all. It's almost like a slip ramp for people coming down Lafayette, down Greenleaf Ave at a high rate of speed. And when we have the bike lanes, bollards out there, it helps to decrease the speed as it forces people to drivers take a sharper turn there, slow them down. So as part of the sidewalk project, we are proposing to make that the new curb line out there where the flex posts are today. And that will permanently make it a tighter radius, a smaller turn, forcing drivers to slow down as they turn onto Greenleaf Avenue. And we would, improve that corner with some plantings or vegetation to make that new curb line more visible to drivers as they approach it, so they don't hit the curb and go up and over it.
All right, and that's similar to what we did on Middle and Middle Street.
Yes.
Or Middle Road.
Yep, tighten up that corner to slow the speeds as they come around it. So that is currently in design, and we are working towards getting that constructed either late this year or more likely next year.
And so the general public should be aware that there are a couple of easements that are required to be able to accomplish this job, and bond authorization needs to be secured as well, meaning funding has to be secured.
Mary Lou?
So I have a question on the sidewalks. I've seen kids going to the high school, I'm sure, crossing from the other end of Greenleaf, crossing the bypass and coming to that short distance to get to the high school. So is there a sidewalk that goes all the way to the bypass on either side?
Yes, on the other side of the road, yes, there is.
Presently?
Yes.
Okay, so they're crossing in a safe area,
Yeah.
coming across.
Yep.
Then I had a second question. A few months ago, when it was brought up that the owner of the ABC buildings had blocked that access, somebody said they were going to look into it through the legal department. I haven't heard anything, and I'm wondering if there's feedback still from the neighborhood.
I would say the neighborhood would prefer.
Sure.
But we looked at it legally, and it's not feasible. And
Not feasible.
It would, the length of time it would take would be years, and we'd be unlikely to reopen access anyway. So that's why we moved forward with this
Okay, good.
alternative. This is going to be faster, and ultimately, because it's now city property, we'll have more control over, keeping it open. And
Yeah, I just wondered if there was any feedback from that ABC building
It was
question.
ultimately unsuccessful despite
Yeah.
a lot of best efforts, I would say. Unless you want to speak to Peter.
Well, I mean, the feedback was that it was private property that was...
Done deal.
Yeah, and they had tenants that were complaining about folks utilizing their space with dogs and having parties and, treating it as a public park.
Oh.
Where it was, instead of just quietly going through. And so it was challenging from that standpoint. They
Yeah.
weren't happy to have to close it, but they felt in order to protect their tenants
I get it.
and their private property rights, so...
I just didn't know if there's any follow-up on that.
And I do want to highlight, the bond authorization is required, but the city did approve, the council did approve for that to happen. It's just one of the logistical steps that we have to do when it's time to actually go out and issue the bond.
Just minor clarification. It's bond authorization is what's required to be able to move forward. The bond would be issued, typically, it's the year later that the bond's issued, but we do not need the bond itself to start the work. We just need the authorization.
Okay, so the work's financially approved. How we finance it still needs some.
So the challenge is, the CIP is a plan, and the CIP does not allocate or appropriate any monies. It sets out what the impact of associated, if a bond is authorized to do the work, it shows what the impact would be. It's still a plan until the funding that's identified is secured, meaning a bond authorization is made.
Okay.
So
But there should be, in this particular case, we don't expect any issues.
it seems to be very supported, so I don't see why. It's on the list that is going to be coming before council for a vote in July.
Okay. Just want to make that clear because I didn't want people to be nervous that we were thinking about not funding
Yep,
this for some reason.
I just wanted to make sure people understood that with the exception of general fund, cash-funded capital projects, so capital projects are funded either through general operating money, the annual cash allocation, bonding, or grants and other type of bond type of actions. In order to secure a bond, you need the council to authorize that action. So until the council authorizes the bond, it is not available.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Erica has her hand raised.
Oh, Erica, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, this is great. I think it's really great we've been able to move this forward so quickly. I love the idea of tightening up that intersection while we're doing it. I do think plantings on that corner are going to be really important to protect the pedestrians and keep cars aware of the curving there. I had a question about the easement. Do we need easements just for construction, or do we actually need easements for the sidewalk itself?
Both.
Okay. Thank you.
And one item we did take care of already was the tree at the corner of Greenleaf and Hillside that's been removed to improve the sight lines for people crossing Greenleaf Avenue.
I saw that. Thanks.
All right. Now, update on the rail trail access improvements on Islington Street, near Vine Street and Barberry Lane.
We have a diagram here. So we are working to implement crosswalks at these locations. One is at Barberry Lane, and the other is at the old BBX Road near Vine Street. And these will require tip-down ramps to make them ADA accessible. And the plan is also to install flashing lights, RRFBs, at these locations, so the pedestrians can push a button to get the flashing light to cross Islington at these both locations. And this is our contractor who is working on the Panaway Manor sidewalks right now. We'll be doing this project probably, I think, in August. We'll get to these. So we'll be constructing tip-down ramps and painted crosswalks at those locations.
Now,
The RFBs may be going in at a later time, but the crosswalks would be constructed this year.
are these standard crosswalks, or do they have like some sort of bike emphasis on them?
They would
Talked
just,
about that, I think, at
yeah,
some
they
point.
would just be pedestrians because there is no bicycle lane leading up to them.
Okay.
Yeah, they would both use these crosswalks.
All right, thank
Can I
you.
make a comment?
Yes, Marilyn?
First of all, I love the bike trail. It's really great. I've only seen a snake, snapping turtle, and lots of chipmunks. No coyotes, no fox, no deer. Anyway, it's a great trail. And the other day I was biking and I came to Ocean Road, where you can now put the blinker on. 4 cars just came whizzing past me. So I'm wondering if there are warning signs for drivers prior to getting to these crosswalks.
I don't believe so. I think the flashing light is in the warning signs there or what's present.
That's what I used. 4 cars. Because they're going fast.
Oh, yeah.
In that section.
Yep.
So I've been on other bike trails where there is a warning sign, you know.
Yep. I can check with the state. It's the state design, the state road there, the
Yeah.
location, see what if they have anything else planned. I know
Right.
that's,
That'd be good.
They're
Do
working
they have
on it.
those on campus?
We are putting them in.
yeah.
Seems like-
Unfortunately, they're not red lights. Drivers
Yeah.
are not forced to stop, but they
Right.
should be yielding to pedestrians, especially when the lights are going.
I mean, the
They're
best,
not used to it yet.
Yeah.
the best you can do is crosswalk ahead sign, if DOT would.
Yeah, rail trail crossing or something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
Yeah. Good. It's great. It's well used.
All right, and now bike corral locations.
So we've made some changes to where the bike corrals are located this summer. We took one off of Market Street in front of the Gaslight, and we put it into Prescott Park at this location, with the hopes of getting some of the bikes that chain up to the fence all the time. We can store more bikes in the corral than we can on the fence, so that would help to get the weight off the chain link fence and clean up that area, especially during performances. And the other locations are on, I figured it'd make it, but it's we have a location, a small one on Congress Street in Market Square where the bus stop is. We put it between the first space and the crosswalk there to keep people from illegally parking on the crosswalk in the old bus stop. And the other one is on Market Street at the crosswalk at Commercial Alley. There's a no parking space there between the first parking space in front of Kennedy Studios and the crosswalk, so we could fit a small one in there. And then we have a large bike corral on Daniel Street at Penn Hollow Street, where it's been in previous years. That's a large one. And so we're monitoring those and see how they go. And, you know, those are all the corrals we have at this point, but we are looking to see if we can get additional ones.
Marilyn?
No, I keep raising my hand. There is a sign that says bike lane ends on Market Street Extension at Rogers, and I'm wondering if a corral can be put there somehow safely, so that, you know, when people see that bike lane ends, they can lock their bike, that spot.
Yeah. Where is that again?
Market Street Extension at Rogers, just before the Sheraton. There's a
Russell.
tree, Russell.
Oh,
and
okay.
Rogers. Yeah, Russell Street. Just over at the train tracks, basically. So it does, the sign says bike lane ends, but there isn't any place for somebody to put a bicycle.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're generally getting into the street. I mean, yeah, we look for places where people are parking their bikes already, or you know, high traffic locations. So yeah, we're looking at all these places where we can put one without losing any parking spaces too.
There's still one at the middle school, right? A large one at the junior high, right? Middle school.
I believe so.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
It's utilized.
Yep.
A lot of people
Well utilized.
School.
they'll ride their bike there, then they'll walk into town.
Yeah, library has them.
Wow,
The library in the middle school. That's a lot. That's a lot of racks there.
they're good.
Steve?
Why was the one at the Gaslight removed? Was it not being used, or is there
It was
some
used
reason?
a little bit, but it was
Yeah.
it was also taking up a parking space where we're short on parking. It's an idea to open that up. And Portsmouth Brewery is closed now, but we had monitored it and we weren't seeing as much usage, so we thought maybe we'd get better usage down in Prescott Park.
Is the one in the Hanover garage?
I believe that's been removed now with the reconstruction inside the garage. It's just not a great place to be mixing bicycles and vehicles in a dark garage like that, so it's best to keep them out of the garage.
And the one at Commercial Alley, I think, is new, or was
That's
that their
new.
one?
Yeah, it's a new one. Yep.
So it's kind of like moving the one from the Gaslight up half a block or so.
Smaller.
It's smaller. yes.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think as we think about e-bikes down the road, you know, the concept of having them in weather-protected spaces is more important. So we might want to revisit that as we think about e-bikes and public e-bike charging also, which I know is another step, but
I would like to see that be part of the master plan for the Market Square to at least be considered. But I think that's a big. I would like to see it, but I think it's a fairly more robust and expensive
Yeah.
process than the corrals.
I don't have an e-bike. Do people cover their e-bikes? They have little like raincoats or covers.
some. I mean, you know, you can make a case that weather protection is nice for any bikes, but e-bikes especially, you know, and I know it's a step up in terms of infrastructure, but something for us to think about down the road.
Just they have removable
Some
batteries.
do.
Typically, I would think for the coverage would be e-bikes can tend to be more expensive. So if somebody has an expensive bike that they're using not as a recreational device but as transportation, you know, it gives them the opportunity to feel that their bike is safe while they're, you know, working downtown or visiting.
So are there e-bikes that have, you can take the battery out, put it in your backpack, charge it, and put another one in?
Usually you just have one battery for a bike. But
Okay.
But that would be more outside the scope. This would just be, I would think, primarily a protection thing, that you feel that your bike is secure and
I was just
you
curious.
can leave
on
for a
what
few
people
hours.
do now. They cover their bikes, they bring extra batteries when they're riding. So
No, they're weatherproof for the most part. All right, and then City Road construction projects update.
Okay, I can speak to this. We have several construction projects going on at once, as everyone knows. I'll start off with Bartlett Street, the section between Woodbury and Kate Street will be closed again next week to all traffic for a few weeks as construction returns to that section, so the detours will go back into place. Coming down Woodbury, you'll need to use Cottage Street and likely Kate and Hodgson Way. So that'll be going on for a few weeks, and then once that, we'll try to open that up, because the Maplewood Ave Bridge will be closing down coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks. And that will cause all traffic on Maplewood. You won't be able to get into downtown from the bypass on Maplewood Ave. So there'll be a detour set up in place so that Market Street will be the best alternative to getting into downtown. Let's see other ones. We've got an RFB and sidewalks going in on Ocean Road at Suzanne Drive, and that should be sometime mid-July. That construction will take place. Sagamore Ave is a construction to widen Sagamore Ave to get wider shoulders out there, and that will be starting next week. Severino Construction will be doing that one. That's a project we've talked about in the past, is to improve the bicycle facilities out there. Willard Ave neighborhood construction is starting next week, and that's a major project where traffic will be shut off and detoured around the neighborhood onto South Street. It's a lot of underground utility work and then streetscape work after that. That'll begin, and there'll be some work in the South and Lafayette intersection as well related to that project, but that will be held until after school gets out, so a couple weeks more on that. Islington, there is a major detour coming up for Islington Street. So they're going to be working right near the intersection of Maplewood, Congress, at Jumpin' Jay's intersection. So any traffic heading out of town on Islington will not be able to use that section of Islington. They'll be detoured up to State Street and then down State Street to Cabot Street. Inbound traffic will still be allowed on Islington Street. You can get up to Maplewood and Middle Street on Islington, but you won't be able to get out of town on Islington Street.
You're laughing, Peter.
So those are the highlights.
Or lowlights.
It's easier to say
Can't
what
get
road
there.
is not being worked on.
Right.
Can't get there from here, basically.
Middle Street will remain open.
Good.
South Street will remain open.
Chief, did you have
Sagamore Ave for
something?
the most part.
I was just going to ask, Eric, specific to Islington Street, during non-work hours, will outbound Islington Street be open?
Yes.
It will. And it
I believe
includes
so,
weekends?
actually. Yes.
Weekends as
At
well?
night, yeah.
Okay.
And Stephanie?
For the Maplewood Ave Bridge, will that be open to pedestrian traffic at all?
Yes, there
Okay.
will be one sidewalk open
Great.
to get people through.
Dave?
What are the extents of the Sagamore Ave widening? Is that going to get the choke point, or is that still? It is.
Yeah, it's that very dangerous section at Lester King. Speaking from personal experience. Yeah, it's what's going to happen is the turning lane into Tidewatch
Sidewalk condos.
Yeah.
is going to be eliminated. So you'll have a consistent width
Yeah.
along there, and then you'll get up to Lester King area,
Yeah.
and that'll widen up to 4 feet on either side.
Oh wow.
So it'll.
So did you end up
the
having
center
to
line
do a
will
taking there,
shift a
or
little
is
bit.
it-
No,
or-
we had to shift. There was a lot of room on one side and very little room on the other side, so we're shifting the center line.
Nice.
To the left if you
That's
want to go
great.
to town.
Good.
I would just comment on, Maplewood, Islington Street. It's going to be a challenging summer, but due to how all the projects came together and the need to work on the bridge and when funding's available, that's kind of the hand we were dealt. Steve?
I really appreciate the pedestrian access being maintained on the Maplewood Bridge. That's really important. Would there be a bike shoulder too, or just a sidewalk?
I believe it's just a sidewalk, yeah.
So I wonder if we might want to consider signage that ask bikers to walk on the sidewalk. I'm just worried, but anyway, thank you for the pedestrian link being maintained.
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, Mary Lou?
I noticed, thank you. I noticed at Maplewood, at both the Islington, Congress in Islington and Hanover, that there's a black cover on new lights.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I forgot about that. Those are the new blank out signs, so that when the pedestrian is crossing the street with the lead pedestrian interval, the 7-second head start that they get, that sign will come on and flash to drivers saying yield to pedestrians when on turns.
Yes.
We've got the signs in place. It's just a matter of, we have a separate vendor who does the wiring and installation. And
I think we need a big ceremony. I'm going to be there when you take the black plastic off.
that would be nice, yes.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes informational, miscellaneous. The need for discussion. Do we want a July meeting? The last couple meetings have been a little bit late. This meeting, we didn't really have any safety action items. They were moving parking spaces around, more or less. So the thought was that we might take July off and reconvene in August unless something came up.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think we've done that in the past.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then, is there any other miscellaneous items? So I actually have one. I've received a number of complaints, as we do most springs, about motorcycle noise in the downtown. And I was just wondering if the deputy chief could speak to the challenges in New Hampshire of doing anything about that.
Yes, certainly. So, with Motorcycle Weekend starting up this weekend, we'll see an increase in the amount of motorcycles. And as you had previously mentioned, it's that time of year where we start getting complaints about everything, including buskers downtown, noise, construction, and in particular motorcycles. Enforcing the motorcycle laws that are currently written in New Hampshire can be a bit challenging. Several years ago, legislation was passed that motorcycle checkpoints are not legal anymore. So we used to run motorcycle checkpoints around this type of year, where we would pull over and stop motorcycles and test their decibel levels. We're no longer allowed to do that. So in order to enforce, if you will, the current noise reduction laws on motorcycles, we have to stop that motorcyclist for another violation if they were to commit one. It doesn't say that they would even commit another traffic violation, so we might not have a reason to pull them over. Decibel levels for an officer are somewhat objective. What may be loud to somebody might not be loud to somebody else. So even on the point of pulling over a motorcycle is not black and white when you're talking specifically about decibel levels. So that's just it's a little bit difficult to have an objective way to pull over a motorcycle because the sound is not black and white to the ear. There are certainly laws that we can enforce relative to baffling, straight pipes, adjustments to exhaust systems in cars in motorcycles or cars for that matter, to amplify the sound of the exhaust. There are decibel readers and there are decibel measurements. What we used to do when we did our motorcycle checkpoints, where you can measure the decibels that are emitted from a motorcycle. There's challenges in that you have to have certified and accurate decibel readers. You need to have specialized training in order to test the decibel level of a motorcycle, and you need to have a perfect environment in order to test that. So that means the traffic stop has to be in an area that's clear of external buildings, clear of signage, clear of parked cars, nothing that can amplify unnaturally the sound of the motorcycle. So you almost have to have a pristine, sterile testing environment. And depending on where you stop a motorcycle, you're likely to not have that. Then on top of that, you have to have the certified equipment and you have to have the certified training in order to test the motorcycle. So that can be a little bit challenging for us. But however, there are city ordinances on noise that we can enforce, and there are equipment violations that we can enforce when it comes to muffler and exhaust systems in general. Our officers are aware of the repeated yearly complaints about noise, in particular motorcycles. And I think, we know in the downtown in particular, we see that some of the motorcyclists, when they get in between the buildings and they know the application is there, they'll do it on purpose because they like to hear it. And our officers will address that when they see it. So we're aware of it. We don't like it as much as our community doesn't like it. And we're doing what we can within the confines of the city ordinances and state laws to do our best to prevent more complaints.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Sure. Is there any, Steve?
Just I was wondering about the August meeting. We could have a brief update on any state legislation that might have been adopted at this session that affects our work on traffic safety. I mean, the answer might be none, but with the legislative session continuing on a little bit, it might be nice to have an update in August.
Sure.
any in all, I mean, it's, I guess, I mean.
Traffic safety and
I
related.
would defer to legal on this, because they're the folks that are tracking the legislative stuff. And, you know, and I don't want to commit Eric's time during the busiest time of our year to do
Understood.
research. You know, we can look into it and see if we can get Jane Farini, who's assists the legislative delegation, to give us a briefing, but, you know,
Yep. Understood.
it's a little bit extracurricular for us, so.
And I just want to thank you, actually, for probably organizing the bicycle patrols again. It's really nice to see the policemen on bicycles around town.
Yeah, we have a couple more officers we sent to training just within the last 2 weeks. You may see that some of those bikes they're riding now are e-bikes.
Yeah.
We're getting e-bikes. We talked about the rail trail today, and that is something that we're spending time on as well because of, as you mentioned, it's outstanding and a lot of people are using it. So we want to make sure that people feel safe out there in those somewhat remote areas. So
Yeah.
it's good to have them back.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mark?
So Portsmouth Police will cover the state rail trail. Will they also cover Urban Forestry Center? Do officers go in there?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other miscellaneous?
One miscellaneous. We have an intern for the summer. We're helping us out with the transportation. That's Cal Gottlieb. He's
Welcome, Cal.
rising sophomore at Purdue University, and he's a Portsmouth resident, so he's helping us out with data collection.
Go Boilermakers. All right, with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Maybe a good place for
Thank you.